All right, how many of you take prescription drugs? Statistically, more than 131 million Americans, which makes up about 66% of adults. 30% of Americans, though, report not taking their medicine, well, because it costs too much. Joe Paris joins me now. He spoke with a national group that is advocating right now for, well, a new law that sponsors say would cut down on prices. We've heard this before many times, but they say they're going to cut it down in a big way.
And the problem right now, Brian, that we're going to touch on is there's a lot of different ideas on this topic. We hear from you in email, text, voicemails that it is a very tough topic. And we see viewer comments from time to time, too. Insulin prices, for example, is a huge in the conversation of affordable medicine. And when insulin prices saw a big drop after major congressional pressure earlier this year, we saw comments like this. Hashtag the 208, they write. I knew a gentle single father years ago. Full-time job, no company health insurance. He sold pot on the side to afford his son's insulin. Unfortunately, his son passed at 21. Diabetic coma. This is so long overdue. And while insulin prices are still a conversation, what about other drugs that are just too expensive and important for Idahoans to afford? Now, there's a national effort to hold pharmaceutical companies accountable for what critics call unfair practices. Now they have legislation and some congressional support, but there are a lot of ideas out there.
New independent health polling shows that close to 30% of Americans say it is difficult to afford the cost of their prescription medicine. On top of that, 31% of those surveyed say they haven't taken their medicine as prescribed because of the cost. The same survey, done by KFF, found that about 8 in 10 people across political parties say that drug company profits are a major contributing factor to prescription drug costs.
1 in 4 Americans state that they have financial difficulty affording a prescribed medication. That's a crisis.
John Conradi is part of the team pushing for new legislation in Congress, the Affordable Prescriptions for Patients Act of 2023. So, what does it do?
To lower prescription drug prices by focusing on the root of the problem, and that's the egregious practices of Big Pharma.
The new KFF poll shows that close to 75% think that there is not as much regulation as there should be when it comes to limiting the price of prescription drugs. Conradi and the team at the Campaign for Sustainable Drug Pricing point to a particular pharmaceutical practice to extend the exclusive patent.
They often engage in a practice called product hopping or the patent dance, where just as that product is about to face generic or biosimilar competition for the first time, they make a teeny tweak in that drug, sometimes just changing the pill casing or pill color or the method of delivery to the patient, changing from a pill to an injectable or vice versa, and then patent that new product to extend exclusivity, extend monopoly on that product, and be able to keep charging patients high prices and blocking access to more affordable options.
The legislation does have support from major Republicans and Democrats in Washington. The challenge these days are competing ideas on how to take on the problem. We reached out to our Idaho Senate leaders, but they haven't responded just yet. We wanted to know what their thoughts were on the idea. We do know that Idaho Senator Mike Crapo is passionate on the topic. He spoke in Twin Falls this week about a different strategy to bring drug prices down by focusing on pharmacy benefit managers, third-party administration of prescription plans. They're accused of pushing prices because of a lack of accountability.
Here for years in empowering pharmacists to benefit patients to the full extent of their scope of practice, improving access for working families and seniors across the state, including in our rural areas.
And Senator Crapo adds that some of the most life-saving medications are out of reach for working families and seniors in Idaho. He adds that he believes the act that he's in support of will help change incentives that drive preferences for higher-priced medicines and also prevent expensive pricing in Medicaid programs, among other things. To be very clear, Mr. Crapo, I should say, Senator Crapo's approach is very different than the Campaign for Sustainable Prescription Pricing. And Brian, as we talked about just a minute ago, this highlights a major problem with a lot of different ideas on how to fix it. For example, the Campaign for Sustainable Prescription Pricing, they're looking at pharmaceutical companies, and those companies will say, well, you know, we make these legitimate changes, that's why we refile the patent. So depends on the case-by-case situation, but yes, drug prices are very high. We see text messages and calls all the time. There's 1,000 different ways to attack the problem. The real trick here is figuring out one that everyone can agree on.
What's this, 2023? We've been talking about prescription prices since at least the 80s, but I can remember.
Yeah.
So kind of like the immigration issue. There's never really a clean, clear-cut solution that people can just go, that's it right there.
And that's why things like
Or that
this go
follows
on.
through with it. Yeah.
Or there's big ideas and they don't get followed through. And I will say on the prescription prices thing, the Eli Lilly situation with insulin earlier this year, back in March, there was so much congressional and public pressure put on this company to make sure that insulin's affordable so people aren't dying, that it made a big change.
Yeah.
So, sometimes when there's, so many different efforts at the same time, it can be difficult to see which one will win through.
All right. Thanks, Joe. We'll keep track and see if that goes further. Thank you very much.